Okay, you guys can get out the, ooh, a little close there, the note-taking and study habit lecture. I actually just went through this whole lecture with what I thought was you guys and didn't hit record. So now I'm redoing it. So needless to say, here I am. So anyways, I hope everything's going good. As you guys can see, I'm not pregnant anymore today, but I think I'll go back to being pregnant tomorrow for your lecture. So it'll be crazy for a few days. And yeah, so just keep that in mind. And so yeah, so get out that PowerPoint. We're going to go over that. There's the reason I want to go over note taking and study habits with you guys is one, this class is really hard. Just telling you that now, really hard. And there's just so much information. I'm not going to pretend that I know everything that's in here because obviously I don't. Okay, this is like infinite knowledge. So there will be times when you guys have questions that I may not necessarily know the answer to. Research it, bring it back. I'll do what I can to find out the answer as well. And there's sometimes information's been updated. So it's not that I don't necessarily know, it's just I don't have the newest information. So yeah, so I want you guys to just know that, if I'm wrong about something, I'll say when I'm wrong. That doesn't bother me. So, but yes, this class is going to be pretty tough. It's a weighted class for one, so it should be tough. Two, my purpose with this class is to prepare you guys for when you actually get to school, okay? No, this class, I mean, it's not a college class, but I feel like this class is really good at preparing you for college itself. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. My students in the past have done very well when they get to their college anatomy courses, and I want you guys to do the same, because here's the thing. For example, the program at PJC, well, I don't know about PJC. I'm not sure what the average is, the weightedness of it is there. Well, we went to the PT school, the PTA school, the physical therapy assistant school in Mount Pleasant. She told me that for each student, they use a point system to figure out who they're going to accept, and 15% of the points that they get is from their A&P grades when they were in undergrad. So A&P 1 and 2. 15% of their points to get into the program are just those two courses and those two course grades. And I want you guys to do the best you can in those when you first get there. I've had students make hundreds. So just know that's the purpose. So this class is hard. Studying for this class, you have to study in here. You will not pass in this class if you do not put outside of class time and effort into studying. That's just the way that it is. I do want you guys to, I just want you guys to know that ahead of time. My anatomy class in college was insanely difficult. My professor wrote his own textbook. I have it back there. It's this big spiral red and white book. And if you go read it, it's like a different language. It's still like a different language to me. And I teach anatomy now. It was just insanely hard. I made a C+ in there, and I was extremely happy with my C+ because it was just really hard. So I did better the second semester, my second course. And I never made a C in my life, ever in my life. So just know, it's really hard in college, and so I want to prepare you for that now. So yeah, so let's get out your PowerPoint. I'm going to make it so that you guys can see this while we go through it. Make it so I can actually see myself here too. Okay, so note-taking and study habits. And it actually will help if you guys will go ahead and get out your textbooks. That would be very, very helpful. Okay, so note-taking during lecture. I do lots of lecture in here, and I'm going to do my best to make sure I schedule lectures when I'm actually here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but there will be other days that I won't be able to do that, and or other days where I think it's better if we lecture when I'm not here, so for me to record the lecture so that I can be back the next day to answer questions or to go over something else that we're doing. But I will do my best to be here during the lecture. Now, you guys can always access these lectures by the links on your notes. So if you want to go home, if you learn best by listening, listen to the lecture again. Go for it. Okay, so during the lecture, I will always give you guys PowerPoints or some kind of handout, outline, something to go by while we're doing that. So during lecture, highlight, okay? If I say something specific you need to know, highlight it, okay? Take notes on there, add to it. There's a lot of times I'm giving you guys, I'm reading off of my PowerPoint that I've already made notes on. That's information that's not necessarily on the PowerPoint. Some of my PowerPoints are really specific, some of them not so much, so you need to take notes. Take note of any clue words that I might say. Like, first, you need to know this, or it's really important that, whatever that is. You might need to know this later. There's a clue that you actually might need to know it later. You may want to write this down. I can't tell you how many times people will sit in here and I'll say, you might want to write this down, and nobody picks up a pen. And I say, you might want to write this down again. And finally, half the class will pick up their pen. Just do it. Just write it down. If I say that, it's probably going to show up later. Anything that I write on the board, write that down that I add to. If I say, okay, the main thing is that, whatever, put that down. If I tell you to put it in your notes, you can expect to see this on your test. All those are things that should clue in. I might need to circle those or highlight those so that I can remember. We're probably going to use them later on. Okay, while you're reading, okay, I know you guys are thinking, oh, reading, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not going to assign you guys to read the chapter. Probably, I'm not going to say I will never do that, but probably will not assign you guys to read a chapter. Just because in the end, none of you are probably going to do it, especially if I actually assign it, or you're going to get so stressed out about it, you're just going to read it so that you can say that you've read it, and that'll be the end of it. And that doesn't do you any good either. It's really just a waste of time. But my suggestion for you guys, and it will be this all year long, is that as soon as we lecture something over that day, and I do use the textbook. We will use the textbook in this class. I like the textbook. It's good. We've got new textbooks that we probably will start using soon, but for now we're using the old ones because I didn't know we had new ones until today, and today's the 13th, so I haven't even done that yet. I haven't even looked at them. So I like the textbooks. I think they explain really well. I think they do a good job. So my suggestion is we lecture, go home that same night that we lectured, and read that section of the book. Typically, I break, you can tell by the PowerPoints what section of the book we're in. And I tell you to do that. I didn't do that in high school. I didn't, because I didn't think I needed to, and whatever. But even though sometimes the book is hard to understand, if I've heard it in class and then I go to read it, it makes a lot more sense. And it will reiterate to your brain what you've heard in class. Promise, promise, promise you guys, it will help you and benefit you to read. Then you can go back and read before the test just to give your brain a refresher. Okay, so while you're reading, one option is to make an outline. And hopefully you guys can see on the PowerPoint that, I've given you some examples here. So this first one is an outline over homeostasis. Okay, that starts on page 9 of your textbook. So I just made one outline for this whole section. In this textbook, each section is broken up by those little blue lines. So homeostasis, so my first bullet there, okay, is just the overview, so this introductory paragraph. And all I did was I took this introductory paragraph and I broke it down into an outline. So it says overview, the homeostasis, the body's ability to maintain normal, stable conditions inside despite changes on the outside. That little triangle sign there is a delta sign. It just means change. It's a medical abbreviation. So it doesn't have to be in full sentences. You can make up your own shorthand if you want, whatever you want to do. Okay, so look, and then I put little blurbs from there. So the literal meaning is staying the same. Well, that's pretty easy. I'm pretty sure we all know that homeo means the same. And stasis literally means this to stay, or not continue or whatever. So that's what that means. Stays the same. That's our body's ability to work in its normal condition. Okay, so that clues me in. That's easy for me to remember. And then it talks about balance and equilibrium. Says H occurs. H is just my abbreviation for homeostasis in this particular paragraph, where any needs are met and functioning smoothly. So I just little blurbs from this particular paragraph. Then look, my second bullet is the next little bold section, control mechanisms on page 10. So then I went in and talked about those. Easy breezy. Okay, all that does is that helps you to eliminate the fluff that's in the book and the reading, and really get down to what you really need to know. Some things that you really need to know. Anything that's surrounded with vocabulary. Anything that is functions, you'll always need to know the function of everything that we do. Just and processes, same way. Okay, this next little blurb here is about summarizing. So that's another way to do this. If you're really good at, maybe you're good at English or you like reading and writing, take each paragraph and just write one sentence about it. Summarize it into one sentence. That's a really good way to learn things. So look, so I put paragraph 1, I wrote a little summary. Paragraph 2, my summary was longer because, I put paragraph 2. I didn't really do paragraphs. I just did summaries of sections, and that's fine. Whatever works for you. So that's another way to do that. Hopefully you guys can see that. A concept map. Okay, some of you guys probably are not familiar with concept maps, or you call them something else. Sometimes they're called like concept webs or something like that. Oops. This is it here on the left, and all it is, this is, my brain works in concept map mode all the time. I feel like I'm just like scattered a little bit. You'll notice, hopefully I'm a scattered organized or organized scattered. I don't know which one. Kind of an organized chaos person, but anyway. So what I did was, look, I put homeostasis in the middle, and then I put like 3 things about homeostasis that come out from there, and I just did that to according to what sections were in the book underneath that. So here is where I put control mechanisms, how the body stays in homeostasis. That's what they do. It's performed by the nervous and endocrine systems. That's significant that I know that. And then all the components I put down here. I put the different types of them, and then the components are a receptor, a control center, and an effector. And all a concept map does is it shows relationships between different things that are, that are interconnected. So that's why I lined up. See, I've got receptor connects to the control center by the afferent pathway, and the control center. We'll learn all this in a few days, but you get what I'm saying. So maybe that works for you. If it does, awesome. Make you a concept map for each section that's in here. That's honestly, sometimes for me, my understanding of homeostasis, I may not need to go back to this concept map to study it, but just making the concept map itself is a good way to study, if that makes sense. Like, I can learn things really well by just making the concept map and trying to understand the relationships. Okay, this other thing on here is Post-it notes. I've actually got those on here. All I did was I took these little square Post-it notes, and I just wrote things like, after reading each little section, I just wrote different things that I wanted to remember, or notes to myself, and put those in there so I can go back and look at that. It's a good way, since you guys cannot highlight in your books, do not highlight or write in your books. This is just a good way for you to write actual notes in there without actually writing them. definitely don't want you guys to write in your new books either. Okay, oops, sorry. Draw pictures. Okay, so if you've got maybe, if it gives you an idea of how something works in here, draw pictures. So here's what I did. This is the negative feedback mechanism. I put this man and he's touching this burner on his stove. I don't know if you can see that. And he's like, it hurts. So that's negative, okay? Because you touch it and your body says, oh, get rid of that stimulus because it's bad. And your body automatically jerks your arm away. Okay, that's a negative feedback mechanism. Positive, I drew in a different picture. This man, not sure what kind of mouth that is, he says, hurry up and clot blood. That's what he's yelling out because somebody stabbed him in the belly during lab class with a scalpel. I have no idea. And now he's bleeding profusely. Well, a positive feedback mechanism is one that makes the stimulus keep going. So one example of this is how our blood clots. It causes the blood to continually clot until it's not bleeding anymore. So, which is a good thing. We need that to happen to an extent at least. So that's an example of positive. Well, now I forever had that etched in my mind. Okay, negative, hot stove, positive, guy being stabbed with a scalpel. Okay, so that's a really good way, especially if you have a photographic memory. That's how my mind works. So pictures work really well for me. Charts is another way for me to make things fit. So down on the bottom left here, negative, you can see occurs most often, increases the stimulus. Some examples are blood pressure, heart rate, etc. Positive are rare. They decrease the stimulus. And I'm sorry, I think I said that backwards a while ago. But anyways, they decrease the stimulus. They want, you to stop bleeding. And same thing, birth, actually, the process of giving birth is a positive feedback mechanism because once you start giving birth, your body says we need to increase the stimulus and increase the contractions until the baby's out. So that's another example of positive. So that graph might help you. This other one on the right-hand side here is just where I made notes in the PowerPoint. Do that, okay? Whatever you need to do. Draw pictures, make notes, arrows, processes, whatever works for you. Okay, so understanding versus memorization. It's really important that you guys understand the material because if you try to just memorize this, there's way too much material. And it's going to be really heavy to memorize. Now, there's some things that are just memorization. We learn the bones, for the most part, it's just memorization. Same for muscles. But I want you guys to understand why things are named what they're named, why they do this, and so forth. And the more you understand, the more you'll remember. Not just because you memorized words, but because you understand thoughts. And so when you start understanding things, you no longer have to memorize because you can think it through. If I see a question on a test and it's asking me about negative feedback mechanisms, but, maybe pulling your hand back from a hot stove is not an option. Well, I can go back and think, okay, well, how does that work? Figure that out, and then pick an answer that makes sense. That will help you guys so much for any test. These are like general test-taking strategies. Try to link something to what you already know. So, for example, one of the things that the hypothalamus does is it works to regulate body temperature. Well, the way that it works is like a thermostat. So I go over to the thermostat. If I want it to be warmer, I turn the temperature up. I want it to be warmer, I turn the temperature, the thermometer, thermostat, down so that it will get, that's that right? So that it will get warmer, so that the heat will come on. And the other way, our hypothalamus works the same way. So I can pair all those together. I can understand better how the hypothalamus works. Summarize things in your own words to understand each objective. At the beginning of each chapter, there's a list of objectives. Go back to those. Do you understand them? Can you summarize a good answer form? That's a good, clear way to know if you're ready for the test. Your summaries at the end of the chapter that go over each section, great place to read. Look at the charts and the tables and the graphs that are in your textbook. Okay, they will really, really help you. And again, don't think of things as words that you're learning. but understand the thought process behind them. Don't just memorize words. That's one of the reasons I have you guys do vocabulary, and I can't remember if I've already told you that or not. Maybe that was in the before lecture that I didn't actually record. But I have you guys do vocabulary, and it's not because I want you guys to do this mindless busy work activity. The reason I have you guys do vocabulary is because, one, I'm really thinking that most of you probably are not going to read the chapter, so at least if I make you do the vocabulary, you'll have to read a little bit of it. When you guys do vocabulary, I do not want you to go to the back of the book and look up the answer. I want you guys to read the word in the chapter, write your own definition. Now, there's times in here where a word-for-word definition is completely appropriate. You understand it, it makes sense, it's not difficult. But there's other times it's not. And I'll have people put the craziest things on here that don't make any sense at all. And that tells me that you're just looking at the words, that you're not trying to understand the meaning. Okay, so when you approach studying, aim to think positively. Okay, when you study, remind yourself of what you're good at. Okay, I know I can remember this, or I remember how to do this part, so let me see if I can make this work. I think positive. Don't think, oh, I'm going to do horrible. Avoid catastrophic thinking. So, like, I'm a mess. I'll never have enough time to study. Think, okay, I've only got an hour, so what's the most important things that I really don't understand and I need to go back over? Or what are the things that I kind of understand that I could probably understand if I went back over? Go through that, prioritize. Avoid absolute thinking, like always, never, so forth. Don't use those words. My husband and I have to remind each other of that all the time, but, maybe I didn't do so well this time, but I'll try to do better next time. Avoid comparing yourself with others. Everybody in here some people are going to be good at anatomy, some people are going to be good at English, some people are going to be good at whatever or not good. Okay, everybody's not going to make 100 in here. There will be some people who make A's, a few who make A's, probably not very many. A few who make B's, a few who make C's, and that's just the way it is. Just do the best that you can when you come in here. That's all I ask. I promise you guys, if you will do the best you can, turn everything in, and actually put some time in studying, you will pass this class. Okay, so study habits. I know you guys probably love this picture of me on here. You can tell that day, not so good study habits. But a good place for you to study. So maybe it's at home. Maybe you have to go in your room and put on your headphones. Maybe you don't need headphones, okay? Just because it's cool to study with headphones in doesn't mean that you necessarily need to do that, okay? You need to do what works best for you. Maybe you do better at a friend's house or with studying with a partner. Maybe you do best at school here. Maybe you do best if you come in the morning and study. Maybe you go to the pharmacy or wherever, okay? Figure out what's best for you and you do that. Schedule when you're going to study. Okay, don't make a plan. Don't cram, is what I said. So maybe, I promise you guys, you'll know several days ahead of time when you're going to have a test in here. So if you see, okay, we have a test on Friday, well, Thursday night I have a ball game, Wednesday night I have youth group, whatever it is that you've got going on. Okay, well, maybe Monday night needs to be the night that you do your heavy-duty study. And then you take Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night and study in little increments when you can. If you cram in here, you're probably not going to do that good. Get organized. Okay? If you plan to study an hour tonight, but you have to take the first 30 minutes of that hour to find your notes, it's counterproductive. You're not going to help yourself at all. And then get some rest before the test. Okay, that'll help you. Don't get all sleepy like me in this picture. Oops. Some other things you guys can do. Rewriting notes. I always hear people say that. It doesn't work for me. But whatever works for you. Repetition. Repeat things aloud. They say if you can repeat it 21 times, that puts it into your long-term memory. Post-it notes. Kind of like I did. Oh, I know what I was going to show you. So when I was in anatomy in college, and we had all of our, we had all of our, this was the book that we used for pictures. We had a different book, the book that he actually wrote, that we used for the class itself. Okay, but whenever I was learning pictures, and we will do lots of pictures in here, this is one of the ways that I studied pictures. Okay, so you can see I took those little bitty Post-it notes and I just covered up the words that I needed to learn on the pictures. And whenever we do pictures, I'll tell you what pictures you actually need to know, like what things you need to know on the picture for the test. So that's a great way, since you guys can't highlight or write in your book, this is a great way for you guys to study and use your books to do that. This whole anatomy book has pictures like that, where I've done that. Okay, flashcards. Make yourself some flashcards. I love flashcards. Now, I like them because you can tote them around with you wherever. You can put your vocabulary. Processes are another really good thing to put on flashcards, kind of like this homeostasis, you know, like putting things in order. So that's another good way. Study Blue, Study Stack, all those online things, index cards, whatever works. More study habits. So use memory triggers. Link it to something specific, kind of like I talked about with the hypothalamus and thermostat. Like it works that way. So if you can relate it, maybe your great grandma had diabetes, and so that makes you think, oh yeah, well I remember them talking about her blood sugar, and it was really high, and she peed all the time. Those all go together. So think, you know, whatever you compare it to. Maybe you watched. I used to love House when it was on, so you'll hear me talk about it some. Maybe you watch some other show, whatever. Pair it up with what you know. That helps you to remember things. Acronyms and mnemonic devices, great way to learn. I'll do this whenever I can. I'm not always creative enough to think of them, but if I do, I'll tell you. One example is A comes before E. So in feedback mechanisms, afferent pathway is the first one, and efferent pathway is the second half of it. So A comes before E. That's one way to remember that. And don't be dumb. Don't underestimate mnemonic brilliance. I hope you like that. Mnemonic, that's an example of a mnemonic device. Songs, you guys can look at YouTube, and there's all kinds of songs to memorize stuff on there. Make up your own. I still remember oh my gosh, now I forget. I can't even think of what the term and what it's called. We used to sing it, I think it's the quadratic, what's the word? Opposite of B plus or minus square root, B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. What is that? Quadratic something. I don't even know what it was or what I used it for, but I remember it because we sang it in a song. So hopefully, maybe you guys know what it is. I'm sure you do. I don't use that kind of math. So quizzing yourself, cram.com is one example, quizlet.com. You can go on and just look up homeostasis, and it'll come up with quizzes that other people have made. It's a great way to study. Oops, wrong direction. Answer questions at the back of the book. We will do that some. I'll assign you questions at the back of each chapter to answer, but go through and answer the other ones for the test. Any worksheets that we do or any other handouts I give you, quizzes, use them. Use them to study. Read the book again. And then any other ideas. I want you guys, with whatever time we have left, you guys are welcome to, I'm not sure what all was on the schedule after this. I don't have it written down right this minute. But you guys are, oh, there it is. That's probably all the time you guys have, but if you have more time, you can, you guys study. I want you to talk about whatever you use to study. Like maybe it'll work for somebody else, or maybe you can get ideas from each other. But please think over this stuff, you guys. I do this for a reason. I want you guys to be successful in all areas. So make sure you plan your time to study. Plan. And I think that's it. I'll be seeing you guys soon.